week at the Byron Nelson. You've got to be feeling pretty good about your game coming into tomorrow, right?
Yeah, it feels, it's funny to say that my game feels nice now compared to 2 weeks prior when I missed the cut at Charlotte. It's amazing how quickly confidence in this game can change. But I feel like, overall this year I've been building towards, maybe getting that win and working towards it at least. And then I feel, pretty good about my game overall now coming into this week. Obviously a little bit tired, so I don't know if that's going to affect me preparation-wise. I know that it will affect me preparation-wise. I just probably won't be able to prepare as well as I need to. I know that I have to focus on making sure that I get enough rest today and get into it tomorrow.
And how's this week been here in Rochester for you so far, and what have you maybe noticed about the East course?
I haven't played the course.
No?
No, unfortunately, I haven't seen the course, and I most likely probably won't see the course today. I'm not fighting anything. I want to make sure that I'm mentally prepared and mentally ready for tomorrow. No matter how well I prepare, even if I go out and play a practice round, if I come in tomorrow kind of tired and exhausted, it won't do me any favours. So I'm just going to try and take it easy. And it's not the first time where I've come into a major championship and not played a practice round. So
cool. Thanks. We'll open up for questions, starting with Jeff on 2, followed by Mike 1.
You mentioned the plus of resting up and all that, but What's the biggest challenge of not seeing the place before you would tee it up tomorrow?
Well, the difference in course from last week to this week is dramatically different. The grass is different, the sand's different, the playing surface is totally different. I won't be able to see how the greens are bouncing coming into approach play, and I won't really see how the greens are rolling typically out there. I know that we have practice facilities here, but it won't give you the best preparation going forward unless you've seen the golf course. But that's probably the most challenges that when you're preparing to try and get a grip on. But like I said, I think if I come in a little bit mentally tired and I start making mental errors, it's one of those golf courses from what I know and what I've played in the past, that if I start making mental errors, then it's going to go downhill pretty quick from there. So I just got to be cautious, understand that I've come off a good week from last week, and with a win comes some expectations, but also I got to not get too far ahead of myself and make sure that I listen to myself and listen to my body.
Jace, 2 things. What does that mean for your caddy in terms of prep research? Like, how much scouting is he doing on the golf?
I hope he's very good. No, I'm joking. He's good. He's a good caddy. To be honest, the yardage books that we get these days, the difference between back in the day when you had to make your own yardage book, you had to really focus on having a really good caddy that would go out and get the correct numbers. These days, the yardage books are so good that it's if you aren't playing a practice round or preparing for a tournament and getting out in the golf course, the yardage books definitely help a long way, just because it gives you sight lines in the books with the pictures, and then tells you pretty much every yardage to every bunker, fairway bunker, going to the greens, gives you all the yardages that you need there as well. So from what I understand and listening to the comments from the guys that have been talking about the golf course, and everyone's saying how difficult it is, that this style of golf course is going to be a lot more difficult than previous PGA Championships, and it's most likely going to be more of a kind of be more to the center of the green, putt to the pin locations, grab your birdies when you can, and then just kind of survive. So that's why I'm like, it sucks to not be able to prepare the way I want to, but having like mental tiredness out there won't do me any good. So that's why it's obviously nice to have a good caddy as well.
And secondly, totally different. With a couple of days now to reflect, Nelson was kind of a long time coming for you. Yeah. What sort of emotions have you experienced over the past couple of days?
I think it's funny. Like after I won the tournament, it didn't feel like much at all. And I say that in the most respectful way. I think it's more about the actual journey and working towards, and all the hours that you get into practicing behind the scenes and working on your body and all that stuff. They're the moments that I live for the most, and then the wins kind of get in the way. And even though wins are tremendous and they're fantastic to have, and I wouldn't expect that my last win was 5 years ago prior to last week. If someone would have said that, I might soak it in a little bit more than, than what I had. But I feel very grateful that I can play this game, and I even feel more grateful of my peers as well. The amount of guys that have come up to me and congratulated me on the win have understood, I guess, how much work it takes to get yourself back to a point where you can, physically win again.
All right, let's go next to Mike's 8-5, followed by 12-4.
Yeah, Jason, just to follow up on that, what has that journey been like, and what do you attribute just the surge in your game recently, as opposed to what the cuts that the falterings or some of the ups and downs that you experienced?
Injuries in competitive sports are no joke. I mean, it's very difficult to be competitive in any sport. To fight through something, and especially in golf, where the mental game is such a huge part of the game, and it almost feels like you're handcuffed when you do have an injury, and you're playing against the best players in the world, trying to compete and win, and that can be frustrating, disappointing. And, it can almost be a feeling of depression sometimes, just because of the amount of work that you're putting in. It feels like you're going and working 150% just to get 10% out of it. But it's like anything. Once the momentum train starts, it takes a while to get, things going. But once it starts to go pretty fast. And it's, if you can stay on that train for a little bit, that momentum can take you on to better things. And for me, last week was a win, which was nice. So I'm hoping that I can, not get too far ahead of myself and expect too much. It's in my nature to expect bigger and better things. So I'm just trying to cool the jets on that and understand that, hey, I'm here at a major week this week. Don't expect too much. I mean, obviously, you're playing some good golf. Don't get too far ahead of yourself, but understand that you got to manage the small things that I've done so well over the last 2 years. It's about the bigger picture and more of a marathon, not a sprint.
In that sense, is there validation becomes an overused word in sports, but is there a sense? Do you have a sense of validation at this point? Coming off that win.
I would say I would say I do. But once again, it'd be nice to get another major. It'd be nice to get back to number one. So there's things that are beyond that it's a good step in the right direction, I would just say. I'm really trying to not get too far ahead of myself. I sometimes get to a point where I let myself go too far, and then that creates a lot of high expectations of myself, and then when I don't meet them, I get disappointed and I get into a pretty bad mood. But I mean, overall, I'm very pleased with how the game's played this year. I mean, it all started from last fall, and it just kept on, just ticking the boxes along the way, and the good play just started happening, and then all of a sudden it just fell. So, the previous 2-3 years before that were just an absolute struggle, and that was probably the hardest, couple of years that I've had in my life in regards to my competitive life. Just to go through that was very difficult, but to come out on the other side, knowing that I was working on the right things and the correct things, finding that consistency and confidence in myself was good.
Thank you.
Yeah, to listen to some of your descriptions of the depths of the struggle,
Yeah.
it's easy to feel amazed that you won again. Is there amazement for you among the feelings?
Well, I didn't. At one point, and I touched lightly on it last week, but at one point I was sitting there going, okay, well, I didn't know if this was like kind of the end for me, just because of where my body was and how I was feeling. I mean, just my whole thought process to take myself through a week where I was just going to go, don't really practice Monday, Tuesday, play the Pro-Am, get through Thursday, Friday. If you make the cut, great. If not, then, I mean, that's not a winning formula, unfortunately. But that's kind of where I was mentally. And I was not only struggling mentally, but I was also struggling physically. And there were a lot of, there was a lot of doubt in my mind to think that I would ever come back and be able to win again. I mean, we all look at like Tiger's 2019 win at Augusta, and I bet that's Tiger, and he's a bit of a freak. But for me personally, I thought it was going to be one of those things where he's had a great career, just injuries got in the way and took him out of the game. But for me to kind of reflect back on these last few years, knowing that it is about the journey and trying to get myself better. It's quite pleasing to know that I can still compete and play and win out here on the tour.
Jason, when you won this event in 2015, it was a truly great run that extended beyond the PGA. What are you better at now than then?
I would say it's more about being aware of where I am in my body. Back then, I would just push through everything. I was in pain then, and I would just push through it, and that was just my mentality, because it was like, hey, I'm this big, strong kind of athlete, and I'm going to push through. And yeah, that gave me success, and it earned me, my first major win, and got me to number one in the world. But it was only sustainable for a very short period of time. And I think this time around, I'm trying to do it in a different way. I'm trying to be a lot more grateful for the opportunity that I have, just because of what I've gone through injury-wise. But understand that there's not just one way of doing it, of getting in there and being tough. And because, I mean, you watch, sports in general, everyone talks about how tough this person was or that. I mean, there's different ways of competing and playing and winning out here. And for me, I've been a lot more body aware and mentally aware of where I'm at, and trying to hold off expectations is very difficult. But I've learned a lot about myself. But kind of, I'm able to, if I can step back to number one in the world one day, I'll be able to hopefully do it in a way that's different, that will hopefully keep me there a lot longer than 1 year.
You mentioned, over here.
Sorry, mate.
No, you're good. You mentioned that there was a time a couple years ago where you thought maybe this is over. But you were a world-class athlete then, you're a world-class athlete now. So I would think that you had access to the things that you have now that have keyed your turnaround. So what's changed in the past couple of years that's allowed you to get control of the back and the vertigo?
It's just more of a consistent output from my work ethic, in regards to, like, I got two trainers. I catch up with one of my trainers, Kevin Duff. He comes on the road with me, and then my second trainer I work with every single week, 4 times a week, 30-minute session. So essentially what he does is he keeps my body neutral, and then what Kevin does is gets my body prepared to play tournaments and adds like slow, steady strength. Now, I haven't been in the gym, like working out and pushing weights around for over 3 years now. At some point, that's going to happen. I'm going to get back in the gym, because you need general strength just in any sport in general. But I've realized that you need patience when it comes back to trying to get back to things. And I mean, it took me 1.5 to 2 years to just work solely on body work with Chris before we could start working on, shallowing and doing some right arm stuff, working on release pattern stuff. So it's been a very patient few years before I could find my footing and balance and move forward. But there's just I would say consistent hard work over a long period of time has pushed me forward to a lot better play this past year.
And Evan Priest wrote a story about a meeting that you had with Tiger where he kind of wanted to look at your chipping.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that?
So, I mean, I think I touched a little bit on it in the presser last week, but it was essentially Tiger was going through the chipping yips, and there's so many different ways of chipping, and there's so many different ways of guys chipping. And at that moment, I was, one of the better players in the world, and my short game was kind of at its height, and he just wanted to kind of pick my brain. We were going back and forth. I actually probably learnt more coming out of that little meeting with Tiger than he learnt off me, because back then I didn't really understand how he could feel every joint, every piece of his body move the way that he wanted it to. Like, he could literally feel everything turning and moving and bending and everything. I'm like, oh man, I just have straight arms and I just rock it through, you know what I mean? And but I guess, Chris would look at all the 3D bio testing on my chipping and stuff, and they wanted to kind of pick my brain about it, and that's kind of when I met Chris Como for the first time. And coming out of that meeting, I was sitting there going, there's something different about that guy. I feel he was very quiet, listened very intently about what I had to give, but then had like deeper questions about it. And when you get to talk to him about the golf swing and you start to kind of break it down with him, then you understand his like deeper level of understanding of the golf swing. And coming out of that, that's when I knew, I'm like, hey, at the time, I think I was still working with Colin. I just knew, I'm like, hey man, this guy's pretty smart. And then fast forward, a few years later, I gave him a call. He was the only guy that I wanted to call to see if he could coach me.
We've got time for a couple more, so let's wrap up with 11, 14, followed by 13 and 5, please.
Jason, speaking of Tiger, did he congratulate you? Did he reach out to you in any way?
He did, but I can't say what he said because a lot of it was like F words in there.
How much did he help you with the idea of trying to get over injuries and come back?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a matter of things, because we would text each other constantly about just trying to push each other. I would say that I wasn't relying heavily on Tiger, but it was just more of a, kind of we're pushing each other to try and get back to where we need to be.
And you mentioned in your winner's presser on Sunday, visualizing holding a trophy. Can you share a little more color on what exactly you did and how different was it to then actually have the trophy again?
Yeah, so when my mum was when she was going through the stuff and when she passed away, I was talking to a therapist about it, and I would just, like, the way things were progressing, I could see my game improving. Even though maybe my team wouldn't see my game improving as I was internally, I could just sense that I'm like, okay, the only way that I can change things mentally for myself is trying to visualize myself. Now, granted, if I visualize myself holding a trophy, I can't do it. I can't see myself holding a trophy, so I have to actually close my eyes and feel the whole environment. It has to be like a personal experience for me. So actually holding it and feeling like how I would feel in that position. And it's amazing how, as golfers, and we understand, everyone here understands that, like, it's a very tough mental game, and that you have to have a mental game in this. But not a lot of guys work on it, and that's one way of working on it and trying to get yourself out of a little bit of a funk is that type of mental preparation going into. And even though it may be 1% of the whole picture, it's still 1% that's moving in the right direction.
Hey, Jason, when it's this cold out, how much more difficult is it to get work done, especially when the conditions you're going to play in most of the rest of the weekend aren't going to be this?
Yes. It is difficult, but it is going to change. I mean, for us tomorrow, it's probably going to be very similar to what I'm going to have tomorrow morning, which is good to even just get out and swing a little bit. But I mean, everyone's done this for so long that, a cold day here or there. I mean, I still can't believe it's, nearly middle of May or middle of May that we're still going through, 40, 50 degree weather. But that's, this part of the country at this time of the year. This is just one little blip on, the whole week. I think it's going to be a little bit cooler tomorrow, but then it's going to start to warm up. So, yeah, the preparation won't be as clean, or, you won't be able to swing it as hard as you can tomorrow, or, you won't be able to do as much, but that's okay. Hopefully you've utilized the first 2 days because we had great weather yesterday and the day before to get yourself ready for, the tournament.
Jason here. On the mental aspect, I thought it was really interesting that that being grateful and having gratitude is the positive thing to do, and yet warring against that is the side of you that expects things. So, like, you win a tournament, then you're like, okay, great, now we're going to number one, now we're going to win a major.
Yeah.
How do you win that fight?
Well, I mean, it's getting to number one is a goal, and there's a difference between having goals and then walking onto a golf course and expecting it. Knowing that it's more about the journey and kind of what I've done. Like, I mean, we were talking about consistent hard work before. Like, winning last week was a good step in the right direction in regards to knowing that the work and the consistent work that I put in was yielding good play. All that had to do is just kind of show itself. Now, I've got to recognize and understand that the little things that I did to get here at this point were the stepping stones for that win, and I can't not do that in the future. I have to keep, kind of doing that along the way, but also doing it in a mindset that actually is healthy in regards to trying to have success as well. But I mean, it's good to have goals, but like when you have expectations and you get too far ahead of yourself, that brings on anxiety, and I don't like anxiety. So I try and not think about it. I try and stay as present as possible.
Kevin, go ahead, Kevin. Finish up.
Jason, I know 2007 you finished third at Irondequoit right across the street.
Yep.
Nick Flanagan won. It was a nice run on the Korn Ferry Tour. I was wondering if you remember anything from that week, and if there are any vibes from that season that are good to look back.
I would love to say I've got the worst memory in the world, mate. When I was trying to look at what was the golf course called again?
Irondequoit.
Okay, well there you go.
And hole 15 here is right there.
Yeah, so I was wondering that I've been here before because of Irondequoit. So no, I unfortunately don't remember much of it, but I definitely, obviously I like this part of the country. I've played great up here. I remember playing. I think it was we had an amateur event over in Buffalo, the Porter Cup. Yeah. So, and I played well there. So it's just, I definitely like this style of golf, the golf courses up here, and obviously the surfaces. So, yeah, it's good to be back here. I'm looking forward to a good week. I appreciate you guys stopping by, but I'm looking for a good week. But taking a step at a time.
Thanks for your time, Jason.
Thanks.
We appreciate it.
Cheers.